Hello everybody, my name is Walter and this is episode 6 of my Redstone Development Series. If you have been following my channel for a while, you might remember about 2 years ago on April Fool's Day I made a tutorial for a color combination lock that randomized the combination each time it was solved. And well, the joke of the entire design was that it didn't tell you the new combination. And that's exactly what I want to rectify in this episode here. So, as you can see, I already copied the design I'm talking about over into this world here. And what I want to do here is add another circuit to it that actually tells you the new combination, which makes this actually usable in a normal world. So that's the plan for today. Now, since it's been about 2 years since I've looked at this design the last time, the first step is reacquainting myself with the design and figuring out how it works and where the different parts are so I can figure out where I can add the new circuit and how I need to add the new circuit. And for that I will actually use my brush to recolor a couple blocks so I can later on easier follow what's going on. But anyway, let's go through this. So as most color combination locks, this one here has 2 piston feed tapes. Yeah, one in the middle, which is for the color, and another one on the left side, which actually tells the combination lock which color is the correct one. So basically the correct color is the one that's visible when the glass block is between the container here and the comparator there. Subsequently, this line here is our output. Well, let's color this as our output. What do we? Maybe let's use a slightly different color for that. Yeah, yellow is a nice color. So then let's go further. So let's see. The feed tapes are semi-automatic. Okay, this feed tape is powered in this corner and in this corner. And this corner are automated and trigger once those corners trigger. Okay. And the other one is in parallel, so pretty much the same. Connection to the button is via this line here. Okay. I see. Okay, those pistons go back and forth when we press the button and activate one feed tape after the other. Okay. That's pretty straightforward. Output is this line, as I already said, and the rest should then be the randomizer. So let's see how this works. At the moment we are decoded or solved. So let's see. Okay, we get pulses, and this comparator down here was on for pretty much the entire time. So let's see. Okay, we have some items in there. I'm pretty sure there is just one item necessary for this to work. Yeah. So, let's see. Okay, so when the comparator is on, the torch is off, which unlocks this clock here. And this clock triggers the randomizer, which should be, yep, this dropper. And if we, so then we get a pulse that triggers our V-tip here and here. And then we have this line down here. Ah, okay, I understand. This basically re-triggers the system if we have the shovel moved over, and if it's just a hand block in this case, then we don't re-trigger the system and the whole loop stops. Okay, so let's color this. This is our suppression. Then we have our output of the system, which should be those blocks. Yep. And then we have the randomizer, which is output here, and this is the input. And then we have the clock, and for the clock, let's use a nice light blue. You know what? This looks ugly. Let's go with brown. Yeah, much better color. So, this is the different components. And with that, we don't need any color anymore. So, okay. Now I know again how everything fits together. Next is talking about where I want to place my third feed tape. So let's see. I need a feed tape with 10 blocks in the loop with 2 corners gapped. I will need a feed tape with a ring of 12. The design is 3 blocks wide, so I will have to go with a one-sided feed tape. Okay, this should work. Now where do I put this? I could put it at the top, the bottom, or the back. I don't want to put it on the sides since I want this to remain a 3-wide tileable design. It makes the most sense at the back, since usually when you solve the lock, you have, for example, a door at the same height as the buttons and similar, or at the same level at least, and it makes sense to walk behind the thing to see the new combination instead of having to, well, go up a ladder or some stairs or so, or down. Yeah, I'll put it at the back. Now let's see. For a one-sided, I will need a steel piston and 3 normal pistons. If you don't know what I mean with a one-sided, I used one of those in a previous episode of the series, actually, when I was designing my swappable working stations. The idea is basically that you don't have a piston feed tape where you push on all 4 corners. Instead, you have one corner where you pull. So the general setup would be basically something like this here. So here you pull the blocks in, and then the rest is pushing in a circle until you pull again. So that's the setup I want to go with. Obviously not horizontal, but vertical, if I want to place it at the back. Now the question is, pistons on this side or on this side? That's actually a tricky question. The main consideration here is I have to make sure that the design remains tileable. So, and I also need to consider if the sticky piston is at the top or at the bottom. Let's see. If I have the piston on the right side here. Wait, I went down. It's okay. This would theoretically work. Yeah, that would work. I might have to add a notebook, and while I'm here, let's actually also get some observers and some wool blocks. But wool blocks. So, node block to debug this one, and although I could also place it in there. Then another normal piston powering downwards here. And then, let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 5. And then that would be the blocks of the feed tip. And then we have the normal piston here and here. Okay, now let's see. This is already connected. This one here we can automate without any issue. Let's see. Output of the clock is this one here. Let's go with... Yeah, that works quite nicely. That should work quite nicely. Now the main issue I see is with this piston here. I don't want to go above this layer, so that's tricky. That's going to be tricky. Because I can't just place a block here and power that one, because then I would also power the piston from the module next over, which I obviously don't want to do. That's going to be really tricky. I might have to flip the entire thing around. If I have the sticky piston on this side, and I have the sticky piston on this side here. Then I have the problem on how to power the sticky piston there. That might be a bit of an issue, so I'll see what I can come up with, and I'll come back to you once I have something I think will work. And after about half an hour of running into walls, I took a short break and now decided on a completely different approach. So now, as you can see, I flipped everything over. The sticky piston is now at the bottom and on the left of our build. So now let's try it with this kind of setup. So let's see. I have normal pistons and those three. The situation up here is this piston retracts, then this piston can extend. Circuitry shouldn't be too hard. That should actually do the trick already. Now down here, how do I do this? With a setup like this here, pull and push. The pull needs to happen before this one here can push. Or alternatively, push, then pull. And now I'm pretty much independent of this one here. The only problem could be that this one here only can pull once this one here has push once this one here has pushed. But yeah, I think this is the one I'm going with because I just had a little idea, and that is I already have a pulse coming down here, and wait, I'll need a repeater for that. If I go with something like this here, I will first push and then pull. But I'm afraid this is a bit too fast. Let's see. This one here retracts. One tick later, this one here extends and retracts. So 4 ticks. 1, 2 ticks. This means I need another 2 ticks here, and then this might work with a 3 tick. I'm not sure yet. Okay, let's give this a test run. Let's artificially solve this. And then press the button. Hey, that looked good. Okay, now let's see if everything works in sync. I'll read it out at the same height as I have it at this side here. So this is the point where I'm reading it out. And let's just mark this one here, and if I press the button, it will end up here. And if after the cycling they are at the same distance to the mark, those should work. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, this appears to be working. This appears to be working. Now let's put in some colors. So this is the gray wool, and now let's cycle this once more. And then let's see what the new color is. Basically, I am just trying to figure out the orientation I need to place the blocks in this loop there. Well, I could logic it out, but this is likely the faster way. Lime. 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 Oh, green wool. Okay. Okay, I believe the colors I've used are the same order as those here, so let's just take them. And green I already have. So those are the colors, and now let's test this with a couple more tries. So basically let's shovel it and then solve it. Basically rotate until the glass block is again in this position over there. And now I should see yellow there. Yes, that is looking perfectly. There is one more thing I would like to add. And that is here I'm pressing or pushing the block into the wall. And here I would like to be able to do the same, but no, I don't think this will work. Let's place it here for now. I don't think this will work. No, this will never get depowered. Okay. This is not an option here, so I will leave it like that. This might actually be a bit of a safety feature too, because now you really need to look through this gap here to see the new color. And that way someone who just looks through from the side here won't be able to do that. That looks pretty good, actually. Yeah, I think with that, the build is actually pretty much finished. I will still have to give it a few more test runs, but I think I can somewhat confidently say this thing here is now working as it's supposed to. And after a good amount of additional successful testing, I'm really happy with how this design here turned out. What I'm slightly unhappy with is that I wasn't able to fit in one more circuit, namely one to deactivate the randomizer via a lever and then manually change the combination with a button. Unfortunately, the space left over here was not enough for that. I wasn't able to get it working. And the few minor successes I had other problems like the feed tape here self-destructing or desynchronizing with this feed tape here. So really, really major issues that would make the entire thing not usable. And that should be enough for this episode. Now, what did I want to show you specifically choosing this example here? Well, a couple of things. First of all, if you have a design where you think you can add to the already existing functionality to make it more useful or even just useful or usable, like in this example where intention left out something, always consider that instead of making a complete redesign, you could also just add the missing functionality as a new circuit on top of the already existing circuitry. Just keep in mind, while this is generally easier and much faster, especially if you're talking about a very complex already existing circuitry, the result tends to be less optimized. You're generally ending up with something that is a bit bigger, a bit more expensive, or a bit slower. But it's much easier to create, in most cases at least. Secondly, take your time to understand how the already existing circuitry works. Color coding can help you a lot in this instance. Differentiate between the different parts of the circuitry where you can get your signals from and where you need to send your signals to from the new to be added circuitry. Then think ahead. Have a rough idea of where you want to get to. what is your final result you want to work around or work towards to. And always think about ergonomics. How can the player interact with the circuitry? And what makes the most sense? For example, here, the display of the color needs to be in a place where you can see it. So smack dab in your point of view or line of sight makes the most sense. At the back, the same. And basically, it's the same position, just flipped. So if the player knows the front half, he basically already looks at the correct position at the back. So ergonomics is always a very important part, especially if you're building something where the player directly interacts with. But also if it's just a part of circuitry or just a circuit that is used as a subcomponent of more complex circuitry. If the input of that circuit is hidden in the middle of it and there is no way to get a redstone signal to it, it's not usable as a worst case scenario. Then experiment. Try different things. For example, here I had a problem that the feed tape didn't work out in the first layout I tried. So I flipped it around, didn't work out, then I flipped it a second time, and then you can see here the final result, which is actually even simpler than the first instance I was going with. So don't run into walls and without trying to see if there is a way around it. Then also, if you are running into problems and you can't find a solution, just take a break. Just take a little break, let your subconscious work on it, maybe take a longer break. At some point you may find a solution or may not, it's not guaranteed obviously. But don't forget to take breaks. This is not work, you're not, or at least I don't think you are getting paid for it. This is something you should do to relax and have fun. So those were the things I wanted to show you with this example here. And well, I hope you enjoyed this episode and, well, see ya. Also, you thought. A quick addendum to this episode. It's now currently a few days later. I just was about to make the actual tutorial for this build, and I found one issue that causes the build to desynchronize once you start tiling the modules. The problem is in the already existing circuitry, so I didn't really notice this up to the point I was trying to build it, and unfortunately I didn't really test several modules next to each other, which is a stupid oversight by me. But anyway, the problem is with this block here, which is part of the whole system that cycles and shovels the entire system. And this block basically powers the piston of the module right next to it. And that causes the entire system to desynchronize, so the colored or the displayed color here is no longer the proper color you need to solve the entire thing, which is obviously not something you can work with. And the only solution I could find after a lot of trying around was what you can see here. So the only way to get the signal down here without interacting with the pistons and anything around was a sticky piston at the top layer there with an observer below, which butt powers the dropper down there. But unfortunately, I still need to only power this piston when I get a 3 signal strength instead of a 1 signal strength out of the comparator there. And as you can see, the only way I could figure out without actually blocking or interacting with this feed tape here was what you can see here, and this means now the build is 1 block higher. Unfortunately, this was the only way I could figure out to get this working. It's obviously not optimal, but it's what I could figure out, and well, this is basically what I will make my next tutorial on, but I will definitely come back to this design and give it a complete redesign at some point. But anyway, this was the last thing I wanted to mention concerning this build, and well, I'll see you in a bit.